Hello, welcome back to The Rationalists, and thank you. And thanks again for all the comments you've been leaving. I appreciate those. Today we want to talk about college. College education, how important it is it right for you, and especially when you look at the costs of it. So first, when we talk about college, I think we need to look at all sorts of different individuals, all sorts of different desires. What do they want out of life? What do they want to do? Too many high schools do not do a good job in their counseling offices of steering people in the right direction. And what I mean by that is, I think they do a great job of saying, let's get you prepared for college, here's what you need to do, and explain that path to them. I don't think that most high schools, and this varies across the country, do a very good job of saying, well, have you ever considered something other than college? Okay, have you considered a trade school? Plumbers, electricians, they can make a great living. And if they want, they can work for themselves, be self-employed. So there are a lot of those kind of options. And when you talk about trade schools, one of the problems that you have is too many trade schools teach somebody something and then go to an employer and say, hey, we've got a graduate for you from this trade school, and you should hire him. But the best places do it just the opposite. They go to the employers first and they say, hey, what kind of machinery do you have here? What are your needs? If you'll tell us, we will educate people particularly for your needs, and then when they come back, that they'll be trained the way you want. So we need to look at that a little bit more across the whole country and get that going better. But even if you're doing these proper things, and you're getting, some people going this way, some people going this way, you're still going to have a fair number of students that are a little bit lost at that time in their life and are not quite sure what to do. Well, what do we do with these ones? One, you can look at a gap year. Say, go get a job for a year and figure yourself out. Really great thing, which probably not enough people do, is go to the military. The military will really help you with the GI Bill with paying for college, and that can be a great way to get a leg up. Now, I understand why some people don't want to go to the military, so that's not for everybody either, but it's certainly something that should be considered and gives you some good options, because you have to look at what you're going to do versus the cost of it. So if you go to college and you're kind of muddling through because everybody told you should go to college and maybe your friends are, you're probably not going to do very well, and you probably will not come out with a good paying job. And there are lots of other things to consider too. Policemen, firemen, they have to go to an academy to learn what to do, to learn how to perform those jobs well, but they don't have to go to college. So there's a lot of options, and I think there's a lot of kids that go to college and end up flunking out. Not a huge number, but a reasonably good number. Or maybe flunking out isn't right, they leave. They shouldn't have been steered in that direction in the first place, and part of the problem there is the colleges. The colleges are looking to attract everybody they can. Sure, that makes sense. It's their business model. And they don't do a very good job of saying, well, I'm not sure, you were right here, but we'll take a chance on you. And in order to do that, they need to make better options available for people in terms of understanding your choices. If you go into this major, here's what will come out of it. Here's what you can expect. And if you go into this major, those kind of things. So cost is a big, big part of college. And if you're lucky enough to have wealthy parents that can pay for it for you, that's great. But most people can't, and they depend on aid. So why is college so expensive? My 3 children went to 2 different colleges, and the rate today for tuition, room, and board, the whole package, is $65,000 a year. That's a huge number. Can you imagine if you had to pay for all of that yourself? You come out having paid or taken on debt for $250,000. That's a lot of money. Now, why is everything so expensive? Well, I can't explain all the different things because there's a lot to it. College professors now are making more than they used to. There's other stuff too. But I'll never forget, My boys went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. Great school, everything worked out really well there for us, and they gave us super aid. So thank you to them. But we go, for my oldest, we go there and you go to an introduction and the president speaks to a gymnasium full of parents. And it was really interesting. She did something that was fascinating. She said, I've got a list here of the 10 cities that send the most students to our college. And I'm going to read them off backwards to you from 10 to 1, which cities send us the most students. So, okay, kind of interesting. So she goes through and she goes from, number 10 up. She gets number 1 and she goes, okay, and I want you all to guess which city sends us the most students. So people are raising their hand and shouting out. It's a college that's in Ohio, so people are, Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, all these kind of things. And some of them had been in the top 10 list. Nope. Nobody guessed the number 1 school or the number 1 city. Why is that? The number 1 city sending the most students to Case Western in the middle of Ohio was Beijing. Beijing, China. Well, that opened up everybody's eyes. That was just, what? And as my boys would tell me later, they saw tons of Chinese all over the campus. Very interesting, they said the Chinese always kept to themselves. They never mingled with the Americans. That's kind of a different matter, but something to think about why. And it has to do with the Chinese government, obviously. But anyway, getting off track there, what I'm coming back to is that when you're a foreign student, you get no aid, 0 aid. So each one of those foreign students, whether they're from China or any other country, are paying $65,000 a year, no help. So now look at it from the college's point of view. Assuming that people can pay it, you want to make the tuition, room, and board as expensive as you possibly can, because all those foreign students you're taking are paying it all in cash, and then you use that to give aid to the American students that need it. And that's what happened in our case. We got great aid. But it kind of seems backward, doesn't it? Shouldn't you just lower the cost for everybody? But this is the game that colleges are playing these days. They love the foreign students because they pay full ride. So it helps a little bit to understand that and why, we have the best universities in the world. If you ever look at listings, we're always, there are like 2 in Europe that are in the top 20 and all the rest are in the United States. And so anybody from China or anywhere that wants a really good education, they want to come to America. So if your parents are wealthy and they can afford it, that's what you're going to do. So if we understand why it costs so much, or at least how much it costs to go to college, then we also have to figure out how much debt to take on. Well, if your parents are wealthy and can afford to pay for everything, that's wonderful. Good for them. That's not the case for most people. So how do you look at this? What I did for my kids was, number 1, I got a lot of great aid from both colleges. I thank them immensely for that. But then there was a certain amount that we had to pay, of course. And what I did was I paid all but $5,000 per year for each child, meaning that if they graduate in 4 years, they come out with $20,000 in debt. That was on purpose. It would have been a struggle for me, but I probably could have paid the full amount. But it helped me not to, and it helped them. Because now they know that they're taking on $5,000 of debt every year. And there's nothing like that to motivate them to do well in college. And they all did very well in college. And I'm convinced if they hadn't had that motivation, if Dad had just been paying for everything and there were no ramifications, they wouldn't have done as well. So people talk about, we should have free college for everyone. Well, I like everyone having the opportunity to go to college. I don't think it should be free for everyone, or really for anyone. I think everyone should take on a little debt to motivate them to do it. Now, coming out with $20,000 in debt is pretty doable. It's not a huge burden, but it also depends on what was your major and what kind of job can you get. So you very much need to take a look at that and decide, okay, this is my major, here's what they pay, here's how long it'll take me to pay it off. So when you're thinking about these things, you need to have information that says, okay, in this major, here are the starting salaries for people who did it. And if each college did it gave a listing when people were applying to their college of not just the majors that they have, but what the graduates from that particular college could expect to earn when they came out for that major, then people would have a lot better information going to college and deciding what to do. Now, that still doesn't mean everybody's going to know what they want to do going to college, but it gives you a heck of a lot better idea. This brings up the issue of what to study and what makes sense. So at my daughter's college, it's a small liberal arts college in upstate New York, excellent college, beautiful campus. We've been very pleased there, and again, they gave us a lot of aid. But they're having some financial struggles right now, and a lot of liberal arts colleges across the United States are having trouble. Why is that? There are more people going to college than there ever were. There's a lot of aid available. So what's going on? Well, people are getting smart. People aren't taking the humanities courses like they used to. They're learning on their own the kinds of things I've been talking about what makes sense to take in college. If you're going to be a humanities major, what are you going to do with it? Certainly there are things you can do. But if you go into a STEM field or a business field, either one of those, then you know that you're going to get a good paying job. And you'll be able to pay off your debt as long as you haven't taken on too much. And you'll be great. But now you don't know what you're doing. So, well, I'm going to be a psychology major. Well, I'm sorry, psychology factories aren't hiring because there aren't any psychology factories. Now, you'll have to, you know, if you go into that field that you're going to have to get a graduate degree and probably a PhD to do anything with it. And even then, you may not be making much money. Now, it's kind of like social work. We need psychologists and we need social workers. But are you having to take on too much debt to get into your desired field? Social workers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, they're all being told they have to get PhDs these days. It doesn't make economic sense. It does not make sense. But that's a problem with the colleges and the certification board saying you need too much education for what is practical to pay off. Now I look at this college my daughter goes to in upstate New York, which is having trouble figuring out why they can't attract as many people as they want. Well, they're very proud of a few things, like they were the first ones in the area to offer gender studies, and male, gender, female, or plural. And they think that's just wonderful, and they're looking for diversity in their students and diversity in their teachers and all that stuff. Fine, fine, fine. The reason you go to college is to get a good paying job. That's why you go to college. So if you're a small liberal arts college like this one, think about this. You can get a degree in dance or gender studies, but you can't get a degree in physics. They have a physics department, but you can't get a major in it. And they don't see their problem. Liberal arts, by its nature, is very different from a university that offers everything. I understand that. But change with the times. You want to survive, just like everything else, you have to change. Industry has to change, people have to change, colleges have to change. So we need painters, we need artists, we need dancers, we need musicians, we need plumbers, we need electricians. So fine, let's have those courses at college so that if you have an interest in those, you can take them. But you should not be allowed to graduate with a major in those departments. Think about this. At this college, you can take a physics class, but you can't get a physics major, but you can major in gender studies? What in the world are you going to do with that? Nothing productive. Nothing. It's ridiculous. Have it as a side course. And if art or dance or music are your interest, great. Like I say, We need those professions. I love to go to the theater. I love to go to concerts, hear music. But $65,000 a year for 4 years to learn those skills? No. You don't need to go to college to learn those skills. Taking lessons? Absolutely. Learning how to, dance better, all those things? Great. But you don't need to go to college to do it. You can do far better taking private instruction at a much lower cost. So we're not helping ourselves, and the liberal arts colleges aren't helping themselves when they don't change with the times and say, we've got to offer business courses. We've got to have a business major. Okay, we're not going to be a university. We're not going to do the kind of research they do. Maybe we're not going to have graduate schools. Understand all that. And maybe you're not going to be able to offer engineering. Maybe you have to go to a different school for that. But you should sure as heck be able to get a physics major or a math major or all these kind of things and not be told, oh, here, this is wonderful, get a dance major. It isn't going to help you at all. We need to be realistic. The colleges need to publish guides. Here's what our physics majors make as they start and how many go on to graduate school. Here's what our dance majors make and how many go on to graduate school or something else like that. And so I could really say the same thing about philosophy and English majors, these kind of things. The only thing it's preparing you for is to go to law school, and we've got far too many lawyers as it is. So those are some of my thoughts on education and what we need to do to change things, why it costs so much, all that. I want to touch on just one other thing, and these are the type of things that I would really like to have your opinions on. So the comment section down below the video, please give me some comments. Today is May 8th, and we're struggling with how do we come out of the coronavirus lockdown. And states are doing it differently. The feds are saying one thing, different states another. There is a trade-off. We've got to get the economy going again, and we're going to sacrifice people to do that. People will die by everybody coming back out. So we know now a little bit more about the coronavirus, and that is that it affects mostly the elderly and those in poor health. So what if we said, okay, just to pick a date, June 1st. Everything can start back up, except maybe we can't do concerts and things like that, sporting events, those kind of things. And believe me, I want to watch football as much as anybody. But maybe we say you can't do that, but everything else can open up. But to go back to work, you have to be, number one, under 60 years old, or pick whatever age, and number two, you have to be certified that you're healthy enough to do it. The rest of you, we have to wait. It seems to me that that might be a good compromise, but I'm interested in your opinion. So do me a favor, leave me your opinion, like this, share it, subscribe. Thank you for listening. Next week, we'll talk about something that's a little more controversial.